Hello and welcome to Enago's webinar titled How to Write an Impressive Thesis Using an AI Language Assistant in collaboration with Trinka, an advanced artificial intelligence powered writing assistant. This session will help to aim researchers understand how they can assess and enhance the quality of their thesis using an AI powered assistant tool. Before we begin, I would like to mention that you can send us your questions using the Questions tab in the control panel, and our expert speakers would be happy to answer all your queries at the end of the webinar. Today, we have with us our expert speakers, Dr. Douglas Darnofsky and Mr. Rahul Kumar. Douglas is a highly published researcher with an experience in publishing books, book chapters, research papers, review articles, teaching materials like textbooks, instruction manuals, etc., and book reviews. He has over 20 years of experience in editing scientific papers for peer-reviewed journals. He is associated with the editorial board of Carnivorous Plant Newsletter and International Trigger Plant Society. As a publication and training consultant at Enago Academy, Douglas shares expert tips with research scholars to help them publish successfully. Rahul is a Bell certified medical editor and an entrepreneurial product professional, instrumental in developing Trinka. He has 7+ years of experience in the academic publishing industry with expertise in editing, product development, and operations. He has conceptualized and built academia-focused AI products for authors and publishers. We extend a warm welcome to our speakers and thank them for joining us today. Before I hand over the mic to Douglas, I would like to give you all a brief introduction about Enago. We are the world's leading author service provider, and our author first, quality first approach ensures that our authors receive only the best quality output and excellent user experience at all times. This unrelenting focus on authors' needs means that we never compromise on our quality systems and processes at any cost. All our services are designed keeping in mind the author's needs. Enago Academy is our author training platform that educates authors through several resources, including webinars as well as live workshop sessions. We also have an e-learning platform for researchers called Enago Learn and live one-on-one consultation platform called Enago Consult. Enago offers world-class services to researchers at different stages of their research careers, such as two-editor system English language editing service, academic and non-academic translation service, manuscript preparation service, and publication support service. The Enago promise guarantees that a manuscript edited by us will never be rejected based on poor language. On a rare occasion, if rejection occurs, we will take full responsibility for re-editing the paper for resubmission at no additional cost. Enago's comprehensive after-sales service will support you at every step of the way until your manuscript is published. They are designed to take care of every need from time to time, from the time you receive our main service until you are published. Enago's research communication services are designed to help you effectively present your research data. In case you are interested in any of these services, feel free to email at webinars@enago.com. We also have exciting discount offers for our webinar participants, details of which will be shared via the chat box at the end of the session. Now, without any further delay, I will hand over the mic to Dr. Douglas.
Thank you very much. And I will share my screen. There we go. My screen should start sharing in a minute. Hopefully everybody can see it. So here we are to talk about the writing of theses, and then I'll segue into the possibility of using AI, and we will hear from Ghost, really terrific tool for doing that. And these first few slides are the things that were just covered and how you can post questions for either of us that will be covered at the end. Details about Enago, Enago, I always said it the wrong way, please forgive me, and the various services that they provide to people around the world. That's me. So to start talking about this, about writing of a thesis, and of course, you have the funny cartoon there talking about how so many people are afraid of being replaced, or have that as a nightmare, that they'll be replaced by some sort of machine. But this is talking about how you can use a machine essentially to help you do a better job of writing a thesis. And so what about thesis writing? There are different steps to this, okay? Planning, gathering information, this is what you do to prepare for the whole thing. Then there's the actual writing down of this. And that's not just writing sentences, putting down words, but it's also putting together tables, charts, whatever is appropriate for the particular kind of thesis for the particular field that you are writing in. And then finally, there's editing and proofreading, making sure that it makes sense, that the grammar, the punctuation, the spelling are correct, but also the usage. I'm an American. I'm married to a Canadian. I wrote a book that was published in Australia. I have plenty of friends around the world whose first language is either English or not English, but who use it professionally. And so there are all kinds of pitfalls for using English. English is a wonderfully rich language, but the problem with English is it's borrowed words from so many different cultures, and there's so many forms of English that you can get tripped up. And the AI tool, which Enago has got, can help you a lot with that sort of thing. And I've seen that sort of thing also in teaching. I know, for example, that all of my friends and all the students I've ever had who come from Slavic countries, think of Poland, Russia, Ukraine, the Czech Republic. They're terribly hardworking people, wonderful scholars. The one thing that always trips them up is the articles, a, an, and the in English, which they simply don't have in their native languages. And so even though they write beautiful, brilliant stuff, that's the one thing that they have the most trouble with. And that's what these kinds of tools are for. But in any case, your thesis is going to be putting together a whole bunch of research, both library research, but also research done originally. And that's what the whole idea for the thesis is, to get that original stuff out there, to get some sort of a degree or some other qualification or certificate or something like that. And you got two basic kinds of theses. The more traditional thesis, which is the one that I wrote when I did my doctoral degree, is where you do a bunch of research, put it together into a whole. It's like one big book. It's supposed to be a coherent book. Another kind of thesis which some places prefer, I know, for example, in Sweden, many biology theses are manuscript-based, where someone will write an introductory paragraph, a paragraph, chapter, a concluding chapter, but then take a number of published peer-reviewed papers which they have produced and use those as the middle chapters on that thesis. That's your manuscript-based thesis, which you see mentioned here. The thesis statement, okay, for anything, and this is not just if you're writing a big thesis, a big thick book, thick enough to choke a horse. It's the statement of what you're trying to do here. It gives you, again, as the slide says, control, or it's going to assert, or it's going to give some sort of structure to what you're talking about. My kids, who are all homeschooled, have to learn to write thesis statements in their little half-page and one-page essays that they start to learn in early primary grades. Usually this is going to go in the beginning. It's going to be in the introductory chapter, but it'll also be in the abstract, which we mentioned later on, of your thesis, which is a short summary, but that's supposed to be in there. What's the big idea? Okay. And if you don't have a thesis statement, the thing sort of kind of wanders around and nobody knows what you're talking about. And now you have, if it's a doctoral thesis, you could have a several hundred-page book that just kind of meanders around, and that's not a good idea. And you also want to get in here what your conclusions are going to be eventually. That's also going to be important in your abstract. How do you do this? Well, has to be specific, and you have an example here talking about university athletes and why maybe they should be given money rather than having to have jobs, and you can read that through. But the idea is you give a specific topic that you're going through. You then say something about it. You make an assertion. Here is something which is true about this. And here, this example, they're asserting that you should give them some sort of monetary or other compensation for being athletes. In let's say a biology thesis, you might be talking about fibroblast cells growing in a dish, and you will say, for your assertion, say, if I add a particular chemical to the dish, they will increase their cell division rate by twofold. And then you need to also give some reason for this. Why should people care or think that this is even worth considering or probable that this is true? Um, support that. So why would you expect this? Maybe fibroblast cells are already known to double their cell division rate in response to a similar chemical, but not exactly the one you're working on in your thesis. And so by mentioning the the response to the similar but not identical chemical, that helps to bolster your thesis statement. All right, sections of a thesis, all right? And this may vary somewhat based on the format demanded by your particular institution for which you are writing the thesis, whether it's, and also based on the kind of thesis. Is it for a master's degree or for a PhD, or is it for some other kind of certification? But it's probably going to require you to have a title page and an abstract, some sort of a table of contents like in a book. And by the way, these kinds of sections are usually checked over by someone at the institution where you're going to submit the thesis, and they are usually very, very fussy about doing things just the way it's supposed to be. So it's a good idea to get a checklist when you're going to write your thesis and to follow it exactly. You're also going to probably be asked for a list of the figures, tables, other kinds of data that you're adding. Introduction, that's why do you care about it? Just like in a scientific paper. Why should we care about what you're telling us about? That introduction then will be followed by a review of the literature. What's already known before we get into this? What have other people done? Followed by your methods. What did you actually do? The results, what happened when you did those things? The discussion, which is, okay, make sense of this, especially based on your review of the literature. How does your set of results make sense? And then a conclusion. Okay, based on making sense of all this and all the data I have, what do we take out of this? What's the big take-home message from this? And by the way, a short version of your introduction, materials, results, and conclusion are what make up that abstract, which is the second item listed in this. Then followed up by, after the conclusion, your references, all of the professional sources which you have used in this, and appendices. Depending on the thesis, it may be that you need to include some data, but that data would just sort of get in the way if it was stuck into the results, all of it. And so you may have to put some of it in the appendices, so those who are actually that interested in it or need to see it can go and see that at that place. An example of a title page, and again, this is going to vary from institution to institution. They'll tell you exactly what to have on there, but it may be things like your title, author, qualifications. Maybe the university wants the logo on there. That wasn't the case for mine, but some places will want this, the date it's being submitted, stuff like that. In the United States, you may be required to put a copyright symbol on that page. For writing your abstract, remember your abstract is a summary of the whole thing. It should be short and sweet. Shouldn't be more than about 300 words, which is about one double-spaced typewritten page in English. It should contain everything in there, your keywords. It should contain basic literature, but not citations. In other words, you may say, based on what was done in the past, we know X, Y, and Z, but you don't go in there and cite Smith 1997 or papers like that. Abstract shouldn't have that. Give the basic information. Why should we care? What'd you do? What happened? And then make sense of it for us, and make it punchy in about a page. Table of contents, here's a typical one, and again, the guidelines from your institution will tell you exactly what to put in there. But it'll, and notice here, there's a list of acknowledgements noted, but there was no list of acknowledgements on the slide 3 back. So it varies from institution to institution. Notice you also have to number pages correctly. You have to do things like use Roman numerals or Arabic numerals, depending on which section you're dealing with, and your standards for this should tell you exactly how to write this whole thing. Now, And by the way, I'm just also, as I go from slide to slide, yes, this seminar is supposed to be recorded, and you'll be able to look at it, I believe, at a future time. This is what your list of tables and figures should be like, and there might be other terms used in your field or by your institution. So, for example, chart or something like that. But those should all go in here. These are the punchiest, most data-rich parts of your thesis, and that's why you want to highlight this and make it easy for people to find it. Um, how about for writing your introduction? Well, you want to make us care about this thing. You've spent perhaps years working on this. You've spent thousands of hours working on this. You want to make people care about this. Tell them why this is an important thing. Tell them what you did, why you wanted to do it. Um, Citations, but don't overwhelm people with it. You don't have to cite a huge amount in the past, more current kinds of citations. And make sure the thing is coherent and it flows well and your writing is good. And that's a big thing that an artificial intelligence, an AI tool like you'll hear about at the end of this webinar, can help you do. Make it flow well, especially if English is not your first language. Reviewing the literature, okay? You want to go through scholarly sources. Say this is not going to be web pages unless these are simply scholarly sources that are being published just on the web or something like that. But you want to organize it in a way that makes sense for your thesis. As we say here, it could be based on the theme, and of course you have a theme, which is your thesis statement, but it could also be you want to organize it temporally. You want to show the development of ideas in this field over time, but you do something that makes sense for your material, for your field. Then you want to, again, go through the literature, and you want to highlight and talk most about the papers that are most directly relevant to your particular research. And at the end of your literature review, summarize what we generally know about this. Okay, you're essentially writing what, at least in some fields, is called a review paper, and you can look at the annual reviews series to get an idea of what I'm talking about. Most libraries are going to give you access to that in one way or another. And eventually you're going to point out where there are problems in the literature. In fact, that may point to why you did what you did for your thesis. You're trying to fill some gap or fix some problem in what was already done in the literature, okay? And then again, make the clear links, all right? Make it clear for people, because after all, this thing is your baby. You've been working on it for years, for thousands of hours. Other people aren't as into this thing. Help get them interested and help make it clear and simple for them. Methods, this is what did you do, okay? So where did you do this stuff? Any special materials, organisms or chemicals or software or anything that's very special, you should cite it, tell you where you purchased it or how you got it or how you derived that thing. You can use diagrams to help with this. As the slide says here, you can use a flow diagram to help make the whole thing clear, your experimental setup. Citations here can be useful, and in many cases, you may be able to save some space here if you simply use the methods of a previous research paper. You can simply cite them, say, we, for example, extracted DNA according to Delaporta 1985 or something like that. You know, that's a, I get the year wrong, but that Delaporta did a famous paper that whenever you extract plant DNA, it always gets cited in the literature. So you cite things like that, and make sure you're doing things that are ethical and straightforward and clear. All right, next, your results. What happened? You're going to tell us here is what I produced based on those methods that I talked about. Here, the figures and tables are especially important because that's where the data is punchy and people can easily see what it is that you produced. And they can see it in a graphic format rather than have to wade through text. Don't overwhelm people. Make it simple and clear, as I keep saying, for them. But also don't be repetitive. Don't put data in a numerical table and then also have a chart or a graph. Put it in one or the other. And highlight things in the text part of your results so that it's clear for people. And again, be ethical, make sure you're doing things that are ethical and make sure that's clear to people. If, say, you have human subjects based on the country that you're working in, that they have this, have you dotted all the I's and crossed the T's for the official paperwork to allow you to do this stuff. And then finally, for your discussion, you want to kind of start to make sense of this for people. You're going to refer back to that literature that you reviewed in the beginning. You're going to make sense. You're going to interpret what you produced, your results, according to what was already known. And if you want to challenge what was already thought theoretically, this is the place to do it. But you want to back it up with the data that you actually produced. And You can also point out, here's where I couldn't go any further. I didn't have enough resources. I didn't have access to something, or it's just not possible technologically to do something yet, but here's what should be done in the future. Wrap it up, summarize it, make sense of it, so that you can go on to the conclusion then. You can now summarize your major claims in your research paper or your bigger thesis so that you can make sense and you tie it all together. The conclusion is kind of like an abstract, but at the end, the abstract at the beginning kind of grabs people's attention and tells them that they want to see this thing. The conclusion kind of summarizes everything again for them at the end. It shouldn't be exactly the same as the abstract, but it's sort of the same idea. And you hit the high points, the most important findings, things like that, general statement, and finish things up strongly. For your reference lists, it should be complete. You want to review all the important literature, especially the more recent stuff in your field, and you want to use whatever style guide your institution requires you to use for writing out your citations. So for example, in the US, one of the ones you hear about a lot is the University of Chicago style. There's a whole bunch of others, and what you want to do is make sure you get all the required information in the right order with the right punctuation, the way you are required to do so by the folks who create that. Talk to the thesis secretary or someone with a similar title at your institution. That's the person who's going to check over your thesis with a fine-tooth comb and approve it or not approve it. That's the person who can tell you exactly how to put things together. Finally, the appendix is for extra stuff that's important for somebody who's really, really interested in the thesis, but maybe it would be overwhelming if you stuck it in the middle of your text. It might be too much. Maybe, as it says here, raw data, additional information, code for a computer program, extra figures and tables that would just get in the way, but which someone, again, who's really interested might want to have in the future. And it may be possible you don't need an appendix. Some theses don't require one, but it's important to mention that this might be a part of things for you. What are some of the errors that people make? Well, this is where the AI tool is going to come in as important, especially if English is not your first language, but even if English is your first language. I frequently see ads here in the United States for a company called Grammarly on the internet. They sell a service where if you're writing emails or writing papers, you can upload it and it will suggest corrections. So even people who have been speaking American English for the entire lives will have this software help them correct their grammar, their spelling, their usage. So problems may occur both in drafting and grammar, translations, or if you're thinking and writing in your own native language, that's one thing, but you have to get it into proper syntax, proper order and usage for English so it'll make sense to people. In terms of grammar errors, you may have problems where you have a plural subject and a singular verb or vice versa, something like that. Problems with punctuation, prepositions, those little words that like with or for, things like that, the tense of the verb, all these sorts of things. And especially for your particular language group that you're coming from, there may be particular pitfalls. As I said earlier, Slavic language speakers have a hard time with the articles English because they don't have a, an, and the, or the equivalent in their languages. It would be easier maybe for someone who's, say, a French or a Spanish speaker to move into English in that particular area because they do have articles like il, they have articles like le and la and lay that somewhat correspond with those other ones in English. And this table, which you can take a look at in more detail in the recorded version, but this table is showing you what are the common errors, the ones that the AI tool will help you most with, and that includes especially things like grammar, punctuation, spelling. This is just basic mechanics. Proofreading can help you with this, and AI tools can help you by doing the proofreading and checking these other things for you. Bad word usage, that's the inappropriate wordings, and also improper titles. AI can help by doing this because what AI is going to do is take your manuscript and it's going to automatically go through and look for those kinds of things. And you may have seen smaller kinds of helps in, say, Microsoft Word. It will underline things that it thinks might be misspelled or the grammar is a problem, but the one from Anago is far more sophisticated and for the purposes of academics, and so it will be able to go through, flag things, suggest corrections, help you with translation, and also help you detect plagiarism, which of course is using things without proper attribution, without taking something and not giving credit to the person who came up with it. And especially if you're not working in your own language, it may be very easy to accidentally do that, to take a chunk of language and move it into your thesis, which someone else wrote without, and forget to put the citation in. The AI tool for Anago will help you avoid that, which can be a major pitfall and get you in a lot of trouble. Alrighty, so now I'm just going to hand this over because Inago's tool is called Trinka, and Mr. Kumar is going to be coming on here in just a second, and he will describe this. He was absolutely essential in the development of this tool, and it's a big advance, and I hope that you will consider using this for your own work.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas.
There you go.
Just share my screen, please.
Okay, switched over. Good. There we go.
Right, I hope my screen is visible now to everyone. So hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about Trinka. Dr. Douglas has set a good context for what really goes into thesis writing and how it is really important to be careful about these nuances. Now, a major part of that is also good language, writing quality, as Dr. Douglas discussed about it. So that's where Trinka comes into the picture. Trinka is an AI writing assistant designed for academic and formal writing. Now, this distinction is important because there are several tools in the market, AI tools in the market, which, of course, provide corrections for casual writing, like your emails or maybe general messaging. But academic writing is nuanced. It is different from your casual writing. It has requirements around concision, the formal tone, how you present clearly your ideas, etc. And all of that requires a distinct approach when an AI tool is being made for such writing. And that's what Trinka does actually precisely. All right. So just to give you a quick introduction about Trinka, out here at Trinka, our mission is to really empower people, authors, scholars, researchers, to write, communicate, and publish confidently in English. Most publication in today's world happens in English, and it's important that there's proper assistance given to such professionals who are putting enough work in really conducting that research, and language should not be a barrier. That's something we really started with in Trinka, here at Trinka, and it continues to motivate us even now. Trinka is built on the foundation of Inago's editorial experience, which Dr. Douglas, as he mentioned during his presentation, is a renowned a language services provider providing services in 120 plus countries and has already served 2 million authors. And that experience really builds the foundation for Trinka's expertise in providing language assistance to academic writing and formal writing. Trinka is unique, like I already mentioned, because it is specially designed for academic and formal writing. It's not an afterthought. We have specially designed the tool around academic and formal writing, and we do not, consider casual writing as equivalent, as in there are differences, and we are very mindful of those differences when we are making Trinka, or anything when we are making a feature within Trinka as well. And that really goes into ensuring that Trinka does work very well with academic and formal writing. Just a quick story about how Trinka came into being. Inago was already a renowned provider of author services by 2010. We had already been working with thousands of authors worldwide, and accumulated enough experience and obviously understanding of how research is written, how authors really write their papers, and differences within research written by authors of different geographies. All of that experience and working with authors gives enough understanding of the struggles that authors really go through on a frequent basis when they have to write their theses or research papers. And obviously, there's no tool which is especially catering to that particular need of academic writing. And we undertook the challenge of building an AI language assistant for this specific genre of writing. I think the work started around 2016, and we had already edited about 1 million papers by then. Leveraging that experience and a team of experts, computational linguists, software engineers, of course, and AI data scientists too, we had developed a tool already in 2 years, which was it started to be used internally within Inago, and was already helping our editors and some of our authors as well. Realizing the potential that we already had with this tool, we had developed Trinka in the form that you see right now, available to you on www.trinka.ai in 2020. Trinka has been named after our lead linguist, Trinka de Cunha. She was been very instrumental in devising the entire product. Now in 2021, Trinka is already being used by about 80,000 plus authors across geographies, and we have good feedback. So I think it's going strong, and there are several features coming to Trinka. And now I'll be taking you through some of the highlights of the product, how you can use that within your thesis writing as well. So when I spoke of academic writing, or which includes thesis writing, I mentioned about the nuances which are unique to this genre of writing. Keeping those in mind, Trinka has been designed to understand and correct language or writing, for that matter, on these grounds. So, you will see changes such as academic tone. For example, any formal writing or academic writing has to be following a formal tone and not casual. Similarly, you would want your writing to be more concise because that is more impactful. Trinka is mindful of that. At the same time, language should not be biased, in terms of gender or the profession, etc. And these are already taken care of in Trinka, so you can be sure that your writing will be unbiased. At the same time, language cannot be vagueness in terms of readability, in terms of verbosity, or too much content which can be reduced to maybe a more impactful sentence. All of these changes will be will be done by Trinka to assist you with a more impactful writing overall. And since Trinka is designed to cater to technical writing and formal writing, it also can provide suggestions for proper technical phrasing which is relevant to your field. So the AI assistant Trinka has been developed on several, in fact, about 1,500 different subject areas, which it has been trained on with about 1,000,000 papers. And that actually leads to our understanding of how technical writing is, technical phrasing is relevant to a particular subject area. And that is, built into the intelligence which Trinka offers to you. Style guide, which happens to be an important part of requirements for any academic or formal writing or research paper writing or thesis, has already been built into Trinka. We have about AMA, AP, and several other style guides which are commonly considered and requested for. And we can in fact develop more as well. And it's an ongoing process. We have about 6 of them right now. And with regard to grammar, advanced grammar actually means that Trinka is capable of understanding the context of your writing in terms of the subject area that you're writing in, plus the topic that you're writing in on. And that gives Trinka the advantage of making precise corrections rather than just generic grammar corrections like your articles or maybe a subject-verb agreement. Sentence structure, now that talks about fluency. Not many non-native English speakers may have the same level of fluency, which is really considered standard. And Trinka can help with that because as it has been trained on several expert written papers across different subject areas. And that also gives Trinka the power to identify the right word in context of your writing and help with word choice as well in the technical context. Usage style, again, with academic writing, there's a certain style or tone that you have to follow, a register, which Trinka can help you with. And also between US and UK variations, Trinka understands both of them and can help you standardize those. And Trinka also has an advanced spell checker, which is again contextual. So it can understand the difference between from and from. At the same time, it has been trained on different subject areas, medical fields or your humanities or physics, hard sciences. All of that helps in making sure that you do not get unnecessary spelling errors like you get with your Word or some other tools like Grammarly, which are not trained for academic writing. And apart from just the language improvement, obviously for technical writing or formal writing or research writing is a lot more, about the way you deliver or present your research itself. So keeping those in mind, Trinka offers other checks as well, which help you with ensuring a more submission ready or more audience ready writing. Subject area based corrections, like I mentioned, Trinka has been trained on different subject areas, expert written papers of about 1,500 different subject areas, and each subject area has about 1,000,000 papers. And that has led Trinka to be able to suggest corrections which are relevant to your subject area. Consistency checks are more of mechanical checks, which are important to really cater to. Things like differences in how you punctuate a certain word, whether it's hyphen or it's not hyphenated throughout your paper, and making it consistent. Trinka helps you with that with just one click. And I think as I will show you in the future slides, further slides, or in the demonstration, you will see that you can use Trinka by applying each and every correction that Trinka suggests to you. But if you do not have the time to apply each and every correction, Trinka has a feature where you actually can upload just a document and get the entire edited paper in one go. And that obviously saves you a lot of time and offers you a lot of convenience as well. Sorry. And most importantly, Trinka also offers publication checks. Now, these are 22 different checks which Trinka does specifically for any research writing. Considering the different stylistic and ethical requirements, technical requirements that publishers have for any research paper. These are around, right, starting from your authorship to including your different sections within the paper to actually the quality of your references as well. Trinka is available on different platforms. We have the web application, which you can access via any browser on any device, which is cloud.trinka.ai. We also have the MS Word plugin, which is coming soon to everyone, I think the very first week of August. And obviously, Trinka works on browsers too. We have the Chrome browser and the Mozilla Firefox browser and Safari add-ons already functioning. All right, I think let's move to a quick demonstration of the product through a quick video. Right. Just to confirm, is my screen visible now? The video, all right. So as you can see over here, Trinka has an interface where you can actually upload your files and keep them saved. You can upload as many as files as you want. There's no limit on that. You can even create a new file if you don't have a file to upload, and you can type your content within Trinka. Trinka offers a rich text editor where you can insert images, tables, and all the required elements for any research or scientific paper, or any thesis for that matter. And as soon as you upload a file, it becomes accessible within Trinka to correct for language and other checks as well. It's as simple as clicking on the file, and it will open on the editor. Within the editor, you will notice that Trinka will start checking your writing as soon as you start the file. It's instantaneous, and it's always happening in real time. And you don't have to worry about clicking any buttons there. You will see that all the suggestions will be underlined. All the error words will be underlined, and you will see the suggestions on the right-hand side. And you can click on each and every suggestion to apply them within the text. And the best part is that when you apply a suggestion, Trinka rechecks your content to make sure that nothing erroneous is left within the document. Something which is very unique to real-time assistance that we provide. And you will notice that Trinka will also provide multiple options and suggestions to help you understand why the change was required, and also so that you can learn and improve your writing overall. You can also tell Trinka that a particular suggestion is maybe not right by clicking on that thumbs down button over there. And that obviously improves the AI model that we have to give you more precise suggestions going forward. And once you're done with your changes, you can download the file through the file options. You can also set the tone between general and academic writing. If you choose academic writing, you can also tell Trinka what type of paper you're writing, what is the subject area of your paper. While Trinka can automatically detect it, you can also enforce your own particular subject area that you are interested in considering suggestions for. Doing that tells Trinka to give you precise suggestions for that particular subject area as well. And that's a customization that is offered only on Trinka. Apart from that, within Trinka, we have style guides. Like I earlier mentioned, you can choose between AMA, AGU, APA, ACS, and IEEE. As soon as you click on any particular style guide, the suggestions will start appearing on the right-hand side as the other language suggestions do. And that's as simple as that. Applying a style guide, I think it has never been easier with Trinka. You can also filter your suggestions between enhancements, which are more of polishing for your language, between grammar suggestions, spelling suggestions, and enhancements. You can control what you see. Now, within consistency checks, Trinka will identify the inconsistencies present in your paper in terms of dashes or number variations or how the spellings have been used. And with each variation, you just have to select which one you prefer to keep or basis on your style guide and apply it. And Trinka will apply that change throughout the document, and your document will be consistent throughout with just one click. You can also choose between American and British English variations. Trinka is capable of converting each spelling to each alternative variant. And document statistics will help you understand the document word count, the number of figures and tables, etc. within the document. Now, the publication checks are a critical suite of checks that we offer within Trinka, and it's really unique to Trinka's offering. Starting from the selection for a particular journal, you can tell Trinka which journal you're targeting your paper for. And when you run the checks, you will see that the results will also include suggestions for that particular journal. It will take about a couple of minutes to process the entire set of checks. It's about 22 different checks across categories. I think we'll start from journal scope match within the results. So journal scope match is actually tailored to understand how well suited your paper is for a particular journal that you've chosen. If you have not chosen any particular journal, Trinka will also recommend certain journals based on the content of your paper. That is possible because Trinka understands the concepts within your paper as well. Within technical compliance, Trinka can help you understand whether you meet the basic requirements of any scientific journal publication, and ethical requirements as well in terms of consent, financial disclosures, or data availability disclosures as well, which is very critical these days for any journal submission. Trinka can also help you with understanding your authorship requirements, whether you have your affiliations placed in the paper or not. In case of it's a blinded paper, you shouldn't be introducing them in the paper. Correspondence and contribution statements as well. All of this is possible because Trinka is understanding your paper with structure as well. And finally, with references, you will be able to see that Trinka identifies the references in the document and also will be able to tell you which ones are old and you should consider replacing them because old references can be a point of critique within the peer review process. And then finally, Trinka will also understand whether how many, you have figures in your paper, how many of those are present, whether they have captions and citations within the paper, and if the order of the citations is correct or not, which is general hygiene for any floating elements introduced in the paper. And if there are any clinical trials being mentioned, Trinka will identify those. And finally, I think quite important is that Trinka will suggest keywords for you to use based on what is helpful in getting more visibility for your paper. And you can also use a summary generated by Trinka to draft a cover letter before you're submitting to the journal. This entire suite of checks is designed to help you get submitted to the journal quickly and without issues that will remain in your paper and can be cause for desk rejection. And you can also choose to actually request for our Inago editing services in case you require editing service for expert-driven content correction or factual correction as well, and in cases where you require further assistance with your paper in terms of the technicalities or the presentation and other aspects which are considered very well within Inago services, you can do that within Trinka as well. And since you're already calling for the service within Trinka, you do not have to upload any other file. It's as easy as just clicking on the button and submitting to Nago services. That concludes the demonstration on Trinka, the product platform.